Speaking of first impressions, it is time to make your first impression. I know, that's like the worst way to put it in there. So we're gonna do something called an elevator pitch clinic. Everyone at home, actually, I need your help with this because you're gonna be doing a very important job. If you could go into your free handouts and get out your elevator pitch clinic handout. What we're gonna do here is I want to train your brain to get in the habit of reading body language. Right? Our brains aren't used to consciously recognizing body language. We usually do it unconsciously. So as you can see with this handout, there are different areas that I want to go through. What I want you to do is all of our students are going to come on stage. They're going to give a 20 to 30 second elevator pitch. Don't worry, I gave them warning on this, so they've been able to prepare a little bit. They're going to deliver it right to you, right to the camera. And on your chart, including those of you in the audience, I would like you to just start noticing what it is they look like. What is their body language saying? And this is no judgment. This is just noticing. Are they expressive? Do they smile? Do they make a pained expression? Do they roll their shoulders in or back, right? So I'm just getting your brain warmed up in the habit of noticing. I can see you guys are like, no, don't worry, it's totally fine. It's gonna be great. And everyone at home, this really helps them get their brain working to see those things. So the first one is stance. How are they standing? Do they have a wide stance, a narrow stance? There's no right or wrong here. It's just how they naturally do it. Expressive. How expressive are they with their hands, their voice, and their face? Gestures and hands. I'm a little over gestury. I don't know if you noticed. I try to tone it down. So do they hold stiff? Do they hold their hands here? Are they all over the place? Where are they with their expressive, with their gestures and hands? The face and the eyes. Do they look up when they're trying to recall? Do they look right at the camera? Do they move their facial expressions in different ways or their mouth in different ways? Just noticing what they do there. Vocal. How loud or soft are they? What kind of inflections do they use? How fast do they speak? The different vocal cues. And then lastly, any other notes that you notice that don't fit into these columns particularly. I notice it's important to always have an other because we never know what we're gonna see. So one at a time, I'm gonna ask you guys to come up. You're gonna stand right here and you're gonna deliver to this lovely camera. And you're gonna just give your 20 to 30 second elevator pitch. And don't worry, we're here to help you. Max, can we start with you?
Sure.
Okay. And I'm gonna be taking notes off to the side too.
And I should just say, Vanessa, for the audience, please, that you can actually download the Elevator Pitch Clinic and all the other materials that are completely free. All you need to do is click the RSVP button and they will be available to you. Then you can follow along as well.
And Max, if you would just stand right about the middle of the rug.
Sure.
Great.
Perfect.
My name is Max DeBowie, and I'm from Portland, Oregon. I work for a company called Open Sesame, and we are the world's largest marketplace for buying and selling online training courses. And our company is important because we offer training that either accelerates you in your job, it either gets you a job, or it keeps you out of jail.
It's perfect, Sarah, you go ahead.
Great. Hi, my name is Sarah Eady.
Sarah, can you stand back?
Yeah, I will.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, I'll start over again. My name is Sarah Eady. I am a content marketing professional, and my work is important because it helps warm up potential clients to services and products that they might otherwise not try. So I enjoy what I do.
Thanks, Sarah. Sachit.
Hi, my name is Sachit. I work as a marketing professional and I work with founders and CEOs to optimize their marketing. And it's important because every business needs more customers and wants to spend less money doing that.
All right, thank you. Meg, oh, sorry, yeah, go ahead, yeah, perfect.
My name is Meg Swyback. I'm a pediatric nurse practitioner, and I work with families with young children when parents have any concerns about their children's behavior, growth, or development. My work is important because I'm the person people come to when the advice they've gotten from friends or family or pediatricians or teachers isn't enough to help them solve whatever concerns they have.
Thank you. All right, Jean-Marie.
Right. Hi, my name is Jean-Marie Milkovic, and I'm one of the hosts here at Creative Live. And Creative Live is an online education network that empowers creative entrepreneurs to learn their craft, their business, and get out in the world. I'm also a personal brand coach, strategist, and the creator of my signature online program called Master Your Presence. And this benefits women who want to shape their personal brand and presence so they can attract the lifestyle, the people, and the opportunities that they desire.
Thank you. Perfect. Irina.
Hi, I'm Irina. I'm a photographer. I'm a portrait photographer. I work with women, and I like this opportunity to work with women because the portrait gives a confidence and self-assurance and belief in its own self.
Perfect. All right.
Well done, Irina. It's not easy.
That
to
is
get up
not
and do that,
easy.
so
You
give
guys are
yourselves a round of
awesome.
applause.
Yes.
Well done.
And there were comments in the chat just saying how brave each of you were to just jump up there and do that with such confidence.
Yeah, Sarah, you have a question?
Yeah, so I'm curious as to how accurate our nonverbal was, because we're like in this situation where we're hyper aware of it.
Yes. Okay. So that is a really good question. So I already looked at your nonverbal before you got on stage, right? But I think it's really helpful to be on here, and obviously you're hyper aware of it and you're nervous and you're on stage. But that is, you are slightly nervous and aware of it during a networking event or during a pitch. So it's the extreme, but I also wanted you to be a little bit elevated, because when you're with a client, especially if it's a rehearsed pitch, like this was you kind of had an idea what you were going to say, it's also like that. So I wanted to get that same kind of idea. But yes, it's a really good question because you are already heightened up there. But I thought they were really awesome, so you guys are good. All right, so hopefully people at home also got to take notes a little bit, because we're going to be working on what we saw and how we saw it. I also thought it was so interesting, Irina, you brought up your pen. I don't know if you know that. That's actually, so that is very common. It's very comforting to have an object in your hands. I'm sure everyone, it's one of the reasons I love to hold a clicker. It's actually quite comforting to hold the clicker. So it's funny that you actually brought that up there, even subconsciously without thinking, because it is comforting to hold something in your hand. That is a trick, by the way. If you are nervous, if you have a pitch, holding a pen during your pitch can actually feel like a comfort object, or a cup if you're at a networking event, to hold that cup. That's also another sort of comforting thing you can do. All right, let's go on to number 8. Back to our trivia. So what percent of our communication is nonverbal? Is it A, 10%, B, 25%, C, 50%, or D, 60%? What do we think? Yes, you're right. I was like, I hope that you guys realize it's at the top of the scale. So yes, it is 60% nonverbal. And by the way, studies are a little bit fuzzy on this, and that it's up to 93%. So 60 is the minimum. The lowest set of studies found that 60% of our nonverbal, 60% of our communication is nonverbal. On the high end, we have 93% of our communication is nonverbal. This is how it breaks down. So it's about 1/3 is our verbal content, what we say. About 1/3 is our face and our body, so our facial expressions and our body expressions. And 1/3 is our voice tone, our vocal power, our volume, the cadence that we use, the lilting aspects of our voice. So that's actually a huge aspect, and we will be talking about that in this course. Even though it's not quite body language, it's nonverbal, and it's very important if you're doing a lot of phone pitching and a lot of phone calling. All right, this is my 3rd law of body language, the law of majority. The majority of our communication is nonverbal. That when we're talking about body language, we have to remember that our body language is hugely important. If you're going into a pitch, you're going on a date, you have to think about what you're going to say and how you're going to say it. So both. All right, I want to talk to you about an interesting aspect of nonverbal, and it's that when we meet someone and their verbal is not congruent or not aligned with their nonverbal, so what they say I'm happy, but they show that they're sad. In studies and research, what they found is that people always believe the nonverbal. So if they're presented with someone who says, oh yeah, I really like this person, but they show dislike on their face, the brain knows, discredit the word, and always listen to the nonverbal. So that's an important thing for us to think about in terms of how we value what we say. And my goal in this course is to make sure that we're aligning, that we're not showing power body language when we're not feeling super powerful. My goal is to get you into a powerful mindset so the powerful body language is aligned with your words. It's not about making them so that you're showing off in your body. I want them to be the same. So they're absolutely congruent, and that's really important for your brand, especially. Whether you have a personal brand or a business brand, you want to make sure that what you're saying you are is what you're showing that you are. All right, number 9. We tend to point our feet towards the person we are most attracted to. True. Could this be true? Yes, I'm seeing a lot of head nods. Yes, yes, it is true. Subconsciously, our mind is a funny thing. We like to move towards the person or place that we like to go. So in a networking event, I love to people watch. You know, as the host mentioned earlier, I wish I could be a professional people watcher in a way that I am. I love to watch people at networking events because you can almost always tell who the office crush is, who the boss is in the room. People will typically subconsciously align their toes and their body with that person. And you can also tell when someone wants to go. We subconsciously point our feet towards the exit when we want to leave. It is our brain's way of being like, you're on the way there. So when I'm talking with someone at a networking event, or even at a meeting, I'll pay attention, because if I see their feet are like aiming towards the bathroom, I'll say, you want to take a break? Because I can actually see that their body is saying, I need a break for a second. So feet are an interesting way that our brain leaks out what we're actually feeling. This is a small part of the body language of attraction. Now, this is a business course, so we're not going to be talking a lot about attraction. But why I think it's important is because in business, attraction and influence are kind of two sides of the same coin. They're very, very closely aligned. Alphas garner a huge amount of attraction. People who are natural leaders, they're natural born leaders, most people will subconsciously point their feet towards them because they feel like they can gather everyone around them. So attraction and influence are actually quite aligned in the business world. All right, lack of eye contact means someone is lying. So do we think this is true, false, or unknown?
Unknown.
Guesses? Unknown? Okay, it is false. So this is a huge myth that I would like to bust. Most people think that shifty eyes or lack of eye contact is someone's lying. Actually, studies have found that liars look you in the face more because they want to see if you believe them. So liars actually make more direct eye contact because as they're telling you the lie, they desperately are trying to see, do you believe me? Are you getting this? Are you picking up on it? So this is one of those 28 lying cues that I was talking about earlier. It's a huge myth. So I hear a lot of nervous people, they always tweet me and they say, you know, I have shifty eye gaze because I get nervous. Is that bad? And I said, the myth is not good, but actually that just means that you're nervous. That's all that shifty eye gaze means. So as long as you're in that 60 to 70%, that's where you get the normal, that 60 to 70% eye contact. It's okay to look away a little bit. All right. Number 11, this is one of my favorite questions. Which mode of communication has the highest amount of lies? Is it A, face-to-face, B, emails, C, phone, or D, IM, instant message? What's our guesses on this one?
Email?
Emails, okay.
I am when it says, I'm on my way.
Yeah, the specific I'm on my way, yes, that's a good one. So we have emails, IM. Anyone else? Other guesses?
Phone.
Phone, okay. All right, so this one surprised me when I read this research. Phone has the most amount of lying. Now, when I read this, because I had actually guessed face-to-face. I thought that had the most amount of lying. When I read it, I was like, oh, actually this makes sense. The way that the hierarchy goes is phone has the most, then it's face-to-face, then it's emails, then it's IM. And the reason for that is because liars do not like to leave a paper trail. It's very hard to write out our lies. Funny things happen in the brain when we lie. The brain gets kind of overloaded, right? It's like trying to keep the truth straight, it's trying to tell the lie, it's trying to be convincing, it's trying to see if you believe them. A paper trail is like the ultimate red flag. The brain knows, don't write it down. It can be saved. So actually you have less lies in emails and IM, which is a little bit counterintuitive. The phone has the most. And the reason for this is because if you think about it, face-to-face, it's hard to lie right to someone's face. Phone, there's no paper trail, and you're not looking at someone directly when you're lying to them. What I say in business, why this is so important to know in business, is because if you have a face-to-face meeting, which I highly encourage for body language purposes, always follow it up with an email. Right? So I always take huge amounts of notes in all of my meetings. And then after also on the phone, I'll say, I'm taking notes. I'll send you a summary at the end of the call. Their brain hears this is going into writing. So that can take down the amount of lies that happen in the phone conversation. And then you follow it up with an email and you say, here's the summary, let me know if this looks good to you. Did I miss anything? And then they can correct you if there was anything that they said that was not quite true. It's amazing, by the way, what you get back on some of those emails where people will correct certain statements that they said on the phone. So that's a way that you can increase the honesty in your interactions by telling them you're going to take notes and then following up any person-to-person or phone with an email. Okay, which profession is the best at spotting lies? Is it A, judges, B, policemen, C, prison inmates, or D, doctors? I see a lot of like, oh man, so who do we hope it is?
Judges.
We hope it's judges, right? I see no's. Okay, so we don't have guesses for judges.
Prison inmates?
Prison inmates, that's the fun answer.
I was going to guess that too. Because I wonder if, I'm not denigrating the prison community, but I'm assuming that probably a lot of lying goes on in that community, so they can probably spot it themselves.
And that is exactly right. So it is prison inmates. And that is the exact explanation, that their brains are more used to seeing and having to cipher out, pull out the lies and what's happening around them. The research in the studies suggested perhaps it takes one to know one. We don't know exactly why, but here's how the study looked. So it had 4 groups of people: judges, doctors, policemen, and prison inmates watch a video where the person in the video was lying, and they had them do 10 different videos, and they had them say which videos were lies and which ones were truth. So actually, the judges, the policemen, the doctors were no better than the average population. They hovered right around 54% accuracy, which is crazy. Most people think that they're actually slightly better. No, statistically speaking, they get right about average. Prison inmates, however, 68% were able to spot the lie. And their brains, as I said, are more attuned. We're going to learn later how our brain is very much like a muscle. So when it's used to having to spot the lies out, we are very trusting beings, which is wonderful. I want you to stay trusting. Prison inmates live in a very, very different world where they cannot be trusting for their own safety. So they often are more attuned. Their brains are looking for lies more often. So now the question I always get is, how about you? What is your rate for spotting lies? So every day we're going to be watching videos of lies, and I'm going to be asking you to guess the truth and the liars. And hopefully as we keep going, your spotting rate will get more and more accurate. So I want to play a little game. This is the lie detection challenge. So I'm going to show you a video of someone playing 2 truths and 1 lie. So he's going to share with you 2 different truths and 1 lie. Before I show the video, I want to pause and take any questions. Are there any?
We've got a lot of questions coming from the line. Some really great stuff, actually. Now, some people are asking for basically a definition of a lie. A rainy day story is saying, is an exaggeration a lie? Does that come under the same category?
Right. So there's a legal definition of a lie, and then there's any kind of untruth. Right? So when we are talking about lies in this situation, because we're not in a legal situation, we're talking about any untruth. And I'm not talking about lies by omission. So that is the one area that we're not talking about. Lies by omission are when nothing is said. We're talking about when anyone says something that is not based in fact, that is untrue. Legally, there's a much longer definition, but for purposes of us, we're looking for any time someone says something that is not true. It's a great clarification. Thank you. What others? Shoot them over to me, and also audience.
And Read My Lips is saying that you were talking earlier about when you write things down, you remember them better. But does that also include typing? Because obviously we don't write anymore. We type everything. Just same. That's a good question. Yeah.
That's a good question. The research is different.
Oh, interesting.
So writing, handwriting, and that is why I'm so glad that you are actually writing. You remember more when you take a pen to paper. I don't know why. Research hasn't figured out exactly why, but you remember more. Typing is halfway there. The percentage is not quite half, but it does help you remember a little bit more when you type it in yourself. That's why I gave everyone blank sheets. So typing is okay too, but I would much rather have you write it. It's another reason why when you're watching body language, when I had you do those elevator pitch clinic exercises, I want you to try to fill in your chart with what you're seeing. So yeah, if you can handwrite in like a journal or a business journal, that would be awesome while you're watching.
And Ivana wants to know how much body language impacts what we refer to as love at first sight.
Oh gosh, that's
Is that
such
Ivana Trump, do you think?
It's such a good
Possibly.
question.
She may be falling in love with you, JK.
Oh, God. That's all I need.
It's going to be we're going to have a pair at the end. I love it. You're going to have a work wife.
I've interviewed her ex-husband, which was miserable. Oh, you might be watching. It was a great experience. Thanks, Donna.
Hope he's not in the chat room.
Oh, he is. Oh, there you go.
That is a fabulous question. So what about nonverbal has to do with love at first sight? So a lot of beautiful studies have looked at love at first sight. And what they found is it is partially nonverbal, so it's partially body language, but it's also hormonal. So they're doing a lot of research into how our brains can very quickly size up someone's pheromone levels and someone's hormone levels. And that from an evolutionary perspective, we like to mate with people who are a nice balance to our hormones. There was a great study, and I'm not super up on it because I wasn't going to talk about romance, but I love it. So they had women smell, this is kind of gross, smell sweaty t-shirts of 10 different men. They put them in jars and they had them smell these different t-shirts. I know, it's gross. But it's cool. The ending is worth it, I promise. Bear with me. So they had women go down and they opened the jar and they smelled the sweaty shirt. And they had to rate on the outside of the jar how attracted they were to the man who wore that shirt. Okay. Now, little did they know that they actually put the brother's shirt in one of the jars of the females. All the females in the experience had a brother or a father. They put a father or brother's shirt because they wanted to know, do we subconsciously pick up on the fact of like, we don't want those hormones. We don't want those hormones. And consistently they found that women rated the men who were most genetically different than them as the highest, and the men and the brother shirts they found repulsive, which is so interesting. So we are attuned. So that love at first sight thing, it's actually our bodies trying to suss out, would that person be a good mate chemically? Would our offspring have a good chance of making it? So yeah, it's a great question. I love it.
Great. And Umid also wants to know, is there a way of knowing when somebody may be lying by omission? And I'm wondering, are the rules the same if you're lying by omission than if you're just...
Yeah, so they're slightly different. So a lie by omission is when someone doesn't say what the untruth is, they just leave it out. The rules are slightly different in that we focus more on the facial expressions. So because there's no words being said, you have to take out all the statement analysis part of lying. But you often will see that people who lie by omission show fear. So they don't say what the lie is, but they show micro-expressions of fear. So it's slightly different. The rules are slightly changed, but definitely what we're going to be learning today can help with it. Great. Yeah, that's why if you're interviewing, open-ended, repeated questions are the best. Because like, let's say that you ask someone at work, you ask a potential partner, so tell me about your previous job history. Tell me about what you've been working on. And they give you a story that they've rehearsed, and they've lied by omission. They've left out a job incident that was not good. That, and you see fear or some of the other red flags that we're going to talk about. That's when you can go, let's go back, tell me a little bit more about this job. Or what happened between this year and this year, right? That's how you can get them to actually say something, so then you can see the full verbal content along with the omission. So that's sort of the strategy that I try to get people to do.
We have another question from Rebecca. I just want to make a follow-up comment on that because I think career coaches, I'm not sure if that's the correct term, often say to people, your resume and what you say needs to be the truth, but it shouldn't be the whole truth. Now, that's quite clearly contradictory to what you're saying there, because an interviewer will find that out. I mean, are you better off just putting it all out there?
Ooh, that's a really hard one. You're right, that is contradictory. I like to put the whole truth out there. I think if you go into an interview knowing that you have a glaring lie by omission in your resume, your body knows that you have that lie by omission and your brain knows you have that lie by omission. So what happens is, A, it takes on your confidence a notch. Right, so your body is not going to align your words as much because you can feel, oh, I hope he's not going to ask that. I hope he's not going to ask that, right? Because you have that nagging in the back of your head. And then when that comes up, what happens is you share your lie by omission job history. And the other person, they have these red flags. And intuitively, we usually are like, something is off. We don't always know when someone's lying to us, about 54% of the time we talked about. But we usually are like, something's not right. Women especially have this amazing intuition, especially moms, where they're like, something is not right here. And so that's why really good interviewers, they might not know lie detection, but they always circle back to the tough question because they picked up, you were aligned, like you were talking about your good job, really aligned, really confident, talking about your good job, really aligned. Something went different, and then really aligned again. So that's why I think it's really important to be really honest up front. And you don't have to walk in the interview and say, so I had a really bad interaction with my boss in 2007. You don't have to do that, but what you can say during that point is, that was a little bit of a hard job, But I was able to make up for it by
Exactly. Interviewers want to know how you solved it as well.
Right.
That's going to help you, isn't it? So-
exactly focusing on the solution and how you overcame it. That often they won't even go back to it. They're like,
Right.
oh great, just put it on the table. No,
that's
because there's
good.
no red flags there. You were very honest, and then you moved on. Yeah, that's a really good question. Sorry, we were going to do another question
No, that's
too.
great. Now, Bex Beltran is asking about the intimate gaze. And they're saying now, with the popularity of statement necklaces, does this gaze happen more accidentally?
Yes.
Or are the necklaces designed to bring that gaze?
Yes. Okay. Oh gosh, these are such good questions. Okay, so that is called peacocking.
Oh.
When women wear, and men, when people wear statement things, so especially statement necklaces, there's also, the pickup artist community, they're told to wear objects that will attract attention. Sometimes they're feathers in their hat, sometimes they're boas, right? That drops the gaze as well. The subconscious reason for this is because it does attract the eye. And someone once asked me, can I force intimacy by dropping my eye gaze into the intimate eye gaze? And I said, if they're receptive to it, it can speed things up. But if they're not receptive, it can be a serious break. So the answer is yes. Statement necklaces do drop the gaze down. And you can also use this if you want to have a conversation starter. Yes, yes, yeah.
Yes, I have a follow-up question to that. When Madeleine Albright was the Secretary of State in Clinton administration, she always had this statement brooch on her shoulder somewhere on this area. And what I remember, there was always a conversation that is like a message, because everyone was paying attention what kind of brooch she was wearing in a particular event. So how would you translate that in terms of gaze?
Yeah. Okay, so I think the brooch had a couple different reasons. I loved following her brooches. The history of Madeleine Albright and her brooches. A couple different things on that. First, I believe, most politicians are coached. I believe she was coached that a brooch would make her look warmer. And the reason for that is because it feminized her. So I think that's one reason that she wore it. The second reason I believe also was color psychology. She wore different colors, and colors signify different things. We're going to be talking about that on day 3. There's a reason that I wear certain colors on my wrists. There's a reason why I wear certain colored jewelry, because symbolically our brains change on the colors that we see. Eye gaze, I had never actually put the two together, but I see no reason why, especially because if she wants to be seen as a little bit more friendly, everyone takes her very seriously. If she wants to soften her image a little bit, that would definitely help, because you would be subconsciously going down lower. So that's very interesting. Yes.
Are there times when it's beneficial to, if you're a woman, masculinize yourself, and if you're a man, to feminize yourself?
Oh,
Are there sort of, there are no, I'm sure, hard and fast rules here.
I think yes. The answer is yes. Usually I never say a man should feminize, but women can definitely masculinize? Is that a word? Let's make it up. Okay, yeah, we're gonna go with it. First, let me start with the men. So I would never say a man should be more feminine. There's usually very little situations where that would work, because it goes on to low power emasculation, which is very different than feminizing. But what I do ask men to do, especially if men are seen as aggressive, I have certain men who come to me and they're like, I have really trouble connecting with people. I know I have a really strong personality. How can I soften myself? So softening is very important for men. There's a couple different ways they can do that. We're going to talk about it, but I'll just give you a very brief one. One easy thing that a man can do to soften his body language is to do a slight head tilt. Head tilts soften whatever you're saying. So I always tell people in business that if you have hard news to deliver, like if you're a photographer and someone's wearing an unflattering outfit, if I were to deliver, that outfit's a little unflattering. With my head straight up, it sounds hard. But watch when I tilt my head, how much softer it becomes. That outfit's a little unflattering. It's that slight, it's like a little bit softer. So that's one of the things that men can do to soften. And for women, masculinizing, I do think that's actually very important in business, especially if you're in a room full of men. Now, you don't want to become a man. You don't have to put on a business suit and a tie. But I do, for example, when I'm around men, I lower my voice tone to the lowest natural edge of my voice. Men's brains, when they listen to a woman's voice, they listen with the same aspect of their brain that listens to music. That is why men often can tune women out a little bit easier. My husband was like, that's exactly what happens. I was like, yeah. Don't blame it on the science. So men actually use that same part of their brain to listen to women as they listen to music. The lower your voice goes, the more their brain can pick up and pay attention to it, because it has a lower resonance. So there are a couple small things that women can do to just to increase their presence, to be taken more seriously, to make it easier for a man to pay attention to them. That's a long answer to your question, Sarah, but I hope it answered it.
No, it's very interesting because I mean, probably the two most famous political women probably of the last 50 years, I would say Margaret Thatcher and Hillary Clinton, have both well, Margaret Thatcher in her life and Hillary Clinton too, have both gone through these makeovers so many times. People have obviously been saying to them, you've got to change this, you've got to change that. But you don't see that necessarily in a male politician. I mean, I'm sure it may happen to a degree, but not to the extent that those two particular women were completely having to reinvent themselves.
Very dramatic.
Very dramatic. Actually, so Margaret Thatcher, and I think I have this video on my website, Margaret Thatcher was trained by Laurence Olivier to lower her voice tone. So when she first started running for prime minister, she had quite a high voice tone, more like this. She talked like this, which is a very ladylike way to speak, but it's not very powerful. So he trained her to drop down because he said, you are going to be called shrill if you speak like that. Men are not going to be able to take you seriously. Women too. Women also like that low voice tone. It shows us that you have high testosterone levels. And we are going to talk about alphas later, but alphas in a group have naturally higher testosterone levels and lower cortisol levels, which is a stress hormone, than other members of the group. In fact, with monkeys, there's always a gorilla or the alpha gorilla in the group. When the alpha gorilla is displaced by another gorilla because he's too old or he gets sick, his hormone levels, his testosterone levels drop within 3 days, and his cortisol levels increase, and the alpha who takes over, their testosterone levels increase and their cortisol levels drop. Naturally, our bodies know when we're in a leadership spot, we have to have the hormones that do it, that help us with it. So yes, Margaret Thatcher and Hillary Clinton, I think, were both trained to lower their voice. Men are also coached all the time as well, just in different things. One politician trick that politicians love, you'll always notice they do this at rallies, is they get on stage, they walk on stage, and they're like, hey, how are ya? So good to see you, hey, right? Like they always do that when they're walking around. They are coached to do that because that is social proof. That is a nonverbal way of saying, I know everyone and I'm friends with everyone. So they're coached to do that, to look more friendly. And that's a really interesting thing that you can watch. I always laugh when I see them making those really fake. I didn't do that when I came in on stage because I knew that it was real fake.
Another presidential debate, Reagan-Mondale, because it was the fact that at the end, Reagan came off his podium and went straight to Mondale to shake his hand, and Mondale was still standing in his place going, and that apparently won Reagan that debate, that little bit at the end, because apparently everyone thought they were even until that point. But Reagan's body language, by cutting across and saying thank you, that was
huge, right?
Yeah.
It shows gratitude, it shows social proof, and real leaders have a combination. So studies that looked at leaders said that they have two qualities over everyone else. They're warmth and competence. Warmth and competence, and it can't be one or the other. If it's just warmth, you have the Mother Teresa feeling. You're warm, you're a leader, but you're not, you don't lead in terms of power. If you're just competent, you're often seen as aggressive. So the best leaders have that combination of both warmth and competence, and shaking someone's hands is the best way to show warmth. Another interesting politician coaching tip that I've seen is early videos of President Obama before he was president. He does this a lot. He points when he talks. Now you'll notice he does this. That is because pointing is a very aggressive gesture. In all cultures, when I do this, you don't like it. Like, I'm sure you're like, I don't like it. Our brains, they don't like it for some reason. So he was coached out of pointing and trained to do this. Now this, in Western cultures, is an emblem for the A-OK sign, or that's good. And so when he does this, it's actually subtly saying, we're good, it's all good, we're nice and cool, it's good. So that's why he was trained out of doing this and into doing that. So that's another political coaching one. Other questions? Yeah?
So one thing I remembered, when he did the speech about the NSA stuff, he tilted his head and did this a lot.
So I wonder if that was coached. So this, can you guess what this move is? I just gave it away.
It's a power move.
It's a power move. Yeah, so this is the nonverbal signal of unshakable determination. That's what this is. So when you want to show you're not going to waver, you can use this in business, although it's a very powerful move. I only use that move if someone's challenging me. So if someone says, I don't know if you can really do this, can you really handle it? I will say, I can get this done for you, right? It looks like a politician. That's exactly because politicians do this to show that they are unshakably determined on what they're going to do. And that's why they do that. The head tilt might have been to soften it, right? So the difference of I'm gonna do this perfectly versus I'm gonna do this perfectly, it looks slightly softer, a little bit less aggressive. He could have been coached on that. He also is a natural speaker, so he could have just naturally known to do that when he's doing a power move. Interesting note, though.
Now, the necklace debate is still raging in the chat room. People are really fascinated by this. This has really engaged people. Shelley is saying, so if I wear a necklace, would that help people feel closer and more friendly to me? LGP Studio is saying, so I should wear the statement necklace in a professional meeting with a man, but leave it on the dress, or leave it on the dresser.
So, oh, sorry.
And Katrina's then saying, so should women in a professional setting be taken less seriously if they're wearing that statement necklace?
So you should only wear it in professional settings if you want to set a casual tone. You should not wear peacocking or statement necklaces if you want to keep it professional, right? That's when small, not statement necklaces work better, because it will drop people's eye gaze down and distract them from what you are saying, especially for men, especially if it's colorful, right? So that's a really great clarification. So in business settings, only if you want to bring, I don't know if you want to do this, if you want to bring a business contact into a more casual relationship, it's a good idea. If you want to keep it business, you want to keep it professional, you want to keep it up and wear smaller necklaces. You'll notice I'm not wearing a statement necklace today. I was wearing a longer one earlier, but that's also not a statement necklace. I always wear it light when I'm presenting because it's distracting from what I'm saying.
Perfect. Now, one last question and we will move on. A slightly different subject. Baker Bongos is saying she's a female percussionist and she works in a very male-dominated industry, but she's quite girly. And says, when I wear masculine clothes, I just don't feel genuine. So I feel I'm compromising my appearance by appearing strong and powerful, but how do I do that without losing my identity and feeling like I'm lying?
Okay, first of all, fabulous question. Fabulous question, because she is tuning into the fact that she wants to be taken powerfully and seriously in a masculine world, but she doesn't feel like it's congruent to her. So for her, I would say what's gonna work really well is color. So what you wear colors can be more masculine. That's an easier way to do it. So pink is a hyper feminine color, whereas black, grays, blues, and browns are more masculine colors. So you can easily do that with color. Find cuts that are still feminine, but in colors that men also like. The color that men like the least. Can anyone guess what men do not like to see? Anyone guess what color they think men like the least?
Orange.
Orange? Pink. Pink? It's purple. So I never wear purple when I speak unless I'm speaking to an all-female group, and women love it. Women love looking at purple. Men do not like it. So I would recommend to her wearing the colors that men like to see. And we're going to be talking about color psychology in the afternoon of the third day. So she has a little bit, but that and also her body language. So we're going to be talking about power body language in a little bit. That power body language is confidence producing no matter what sex you are. And that's what you always want. To be taken seriously, people take confident people seriously. We're gonna do our lie detection challenge. So this is a video of Aaron, and he is going to tell you 2 truths and 1 lie. And I won't tell you the order they're in. I want you to watch the video and I want you to guess which one you think is the lie. And we're gonna talk about which one you think is the lie, okay?
So I love kayaking, I hate cherry tomatoes, and I just farted.
All right, what do we think? What was the lie?
Well, I know him, so I know it's not number 3.
No cheating, no cheating. So what do we think? What stuck out to you as a possible lie there?
Farting.
Farting? It's too hard?
Number 3.
Number 3. Okay, so I'm going to make us wait until after the break to learn the answer to this question. We can watch it one more time so you can see what the lie is. Now, I want to assign some very brief break homework. So anytime we take a break, I'm going to have you watch some fun videos. So there's something that you can do while you're getting that snack or running to the bathroom. That Nixon-Kennedy debate that we talked about at the beginning of the course, the difference they're nonverbal, on my website, scienceofpeople.com/CL, I have all these videos for free. I want you to watch the debate. Actually, the most important part of the debate is just the first 5 minutes. That's it. He makes his first impression the first 5 minutes. I want you to take note of the differences between Nixon and Kennedy. What do they do non-verbally before they even say a word? How do they take the stage? How do they smile during their introductions? How do they start their opening statement? That's what I want you to pay attention to, because you will immediately notice the huge difference between the two of them. And then if you have time, I highly recommend watching it without watching the video. So just listen to it. This is what the radio people heard, and see if you can hear the difference between the 2 different candidates.
Well, anything else from our studio audience? Now, Jean-Marie, you actually coach primarily women, don't you? Anything that you've learned from this segment so far is a big takeaway from you that you're thinking you can apply already, a new technique perhaps?
Oh, absolutely. The purple was, definitely a revelation. I mean, I look at a lot of personal brands and the way that people express who they are online as well, with the colors they use on their website. And so the purple really, that I hadn't heard it phrased that way before. So that was like super awesome to hear that, because if you actually do want to have a conversation with women, that could be an easy way to connect with them.
Very much so. And you'll notice subconsciously a lot of women websites do have purple. They somehow know that's a very feminine color. And that's part of your nonverbal brand. So we're going to be talking about how nonverbal plays into your brand as a whole, your social media pictures, your website colors, how your videos are on your website, what your email signature is, what your materials are, if you're a photographer, what your albums look like, what your cards look like. That's all falls into your nonverbal brand, and color is hugely important. So yeah, that's a really great one.
It's interesting as well about getting back to politics for a moment, because it's less so in America, I think, but certainly in European politics, parties have a very definite color that identifies them. And it's usually red to the left and blue to the right, generally speaking. But the British Labour Party was red for years. And at the very last minute of the '97 campaign that swept Tony Blair to power, they switched to purple. And I wonder if that was because they wanted the female vote. Maybe they felt they had the male vote, and they switched. And it didn't last. They only used it for that last week of campaigning.
That's so interesting. I wonder if that has to do with that. I'm going to have to go search online.
Yeah, I'm fascinated now. So were they trying, we've got to get the female vote. This is where we're going.
Oh, I've got to go look it up. Oh, I'm going to be doing some internet browsing during my break. That's what I'm going to be doing.
We do have one question from Seven Spoons about lying again. So can you rehearse a lie so much in your head that you start treating it as the truth?
Okay. Really good question. So one of the things that I do on my blog and on Twitter is I look at celebrities, Amanda Knox, Amanda Knox isn't a celebrity, but Amanda Knox, Lance Armstrong, especially when they're on trial. And I always critique the videos, look for lies, look for different patterns, and my readers submit different lies that they see in the videos. The hardest part about that is the more someone practices the lie, typically the less cues they show. And the reason is because it's so memorized and they've said it so many times, they don't even feel any emotion anymore. So I try to get people in their early interviews. Like I usually rarely will watch like on the press steps, because that's so rehearsed, and lawyers will have them practice 50, 60, 70 times to get out all the emotions. I like to watch some of the first interviews when they're first released, because they're less practiced. So yes, and I hope this doesn't encourage people to practice their lies more, but yes, you can practice your lies so much that it's memorized and it becomes emotionless. That is absolutely true. As an interviewer, if you're interrogating someone, when I interrogate someone, I try to ask the question in different ways. So I make them leave their script, especially if I've heard them say something or use the same words. I'm like, this is rehearsed. Now, not all things that are rehearsed are lies, right? People rehearse answers that they've gotten a lot. So I will try to switch up how I ask something. They've also found that liars have a very difficult time with the order of their story, reorganizing it. So for example, if you're looking at murderers, not that anyone home is doing that, but if you're interrogating murderers and you ask them what happened that night, or let's take it down a notch. If you're a parent and your teenager comes home and you ask them, what did you do last night? Right? That's a difficult question. And they've rehearsed this if they have a lie, right? They're like, I went to Lucy's, and we went to a movie, we grabbed something to eat, we got some yogurt, and I came home, right? What you can do as a parent, and I don't recommend interrogating your teenager, but you can say, oh, so what did you do before ice cream? They should be able to instantly remember that, because an honest person knows exactly what they did before ice cream. But if they don't remember, they'll go, and they have to do the whole story in order and then backtrack. Liars cannot do that. So you can break up memorized lies. All the parents are like furiously writing down. So that is one thing that you can do to catch a liar in that memorized
You just reminded me of the Oscar-winning movie, The Others, that fascinating movie about East German interrogation. And the way the interrogators worked was they knew the liar because the liar's story never changed. The person telling the truth began to get panicked. They began to get nervous because they couldn't understand why no one believed them.
Right.
But the liar's story was the same at 8 o'clock in the morning as it was at 5 p.m. at night. And that's how they knew.
And they were emotionless because they had practiced it so many times. They thought that their story was lock solid.
Exactly.
Whereas the honest people, if you ask an honest person the same question 4 different ways, they feel like they're going crazy, right? They're like, I told you this, and they can answer it every way, but they'll tell you slightly differently because they're trying to convince you that it's actually the truth. Right. They can explain the scene from every which way, right? So that's a really interesting, I hadn't thought about that movie. I might have to go find a clip of it.